Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Kelly Green Hour as we are already in week 4 of the 2025 National Football League season. And your 3-0 Philadelphia Eagles are traveling to Tampa Bay to face the 3-0 Buccaneers in September in 100-degree heat once again. I'm your host, LG Harrell, and as always, I am joined by my co-host, Connor Donald. Connor, what's going on, man?
I mean, there's a lot of ways that you could look at the NFL hating the Eagles in the way that they made the schedule this year, but nothing will ever get me past why we always have to travel to Tampa in September when we know it's probably one of the hottest times of the entire football season. I'll never get past that, but I digress. But I'm doing.
This
I'm
is the
doing good.
third, I think this is the third straight year that they've gone to Tampa in September.
Exactly. I don't. There's something about it, but I mean, whatever it is, what it is, we're gonna go in there. We're gonna move to 4-0, and we're gonna do our thing. But Otherwise, I'm doing good, man. I'm doing good. What about yourself?
I'm doing all right. It's like hot. It's 80. It's almost about to be October, and it's 80 degrees. I'm dying. Like it's so hot. I hate the summertime. I hate the heat. Uh, I wish it was nice and cool here, but it's not. Hopefully, soon enough, it will be. I shouldn't be, sweating at 5 o'clock in the morning when I take my dog out for a walk, whatever.
You're still one of the few people of everyone listening to this podcast that is ever gonna say they prefer winter and the snow and all of that. I just can't get over it. I don't. I mean, maybe it's because I live in Canada and we get probably so much more snow than you guys get that I get tired of it by like 1 month into winter. But
Hey, I always say when it's hot, you can or when it's cold, you can keep putting clothes on to warm yourself up. When it's hot, you can only take so much off. You can't walk around naked. So let's just, I don't. Maybe it's because I played football too, and going through summer camp and all that wasn't fun. Who the heck knows? I much rather, like Jason Kelsey said the other day, much rather play in the cold. Much rather play in the cold than play in the heat.
Well, of course, if you're playing football, you're gonna want to play in the colder weather, the better, because you also don't feel stuff as much. But I mean, we're talking me and you. We're just podcast hosts, living the life, sitting on our ass a lot of the time, doing jobs. Like we're not out there. Well, we shouldn't be sweating doing our job, but maybe you do. I don't know. But I mean, at the end of the day, we're not playing football, so I don't sweat much in the winter. So
I sweat all the time. I am a bigger guy, so that might have something to do with it. So before we jump into this Eagles and Tampa Bay game, as always, follow us on Twitter at Kelly Green Hour. Follow Connor on Twitter at Connor10. Follow me on Twitter at LGHero54, and follow the Eagles Pin Pool Network on Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, wherever you get your podcasts at Eagles Pin Pool Network. And if you're joining us live, like Philly John is, giving us the bird emoji, the Eagles emoji, welcome aboard. Let us know your thoughts on this upcoming game, your prediction, your players to watch, your keys to the game. As the Eagles under Nick Sirianni are 1-4 against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They won in 2023. DeAndre Swift had a big game that day. The Eagles pretty much ran the ball all over them. The one thing about this Eagles and Tampa Bay matchup since Sirianni has been here, A.J. Brown has missed all but one game in this matchup. The first year we played him, A.J. Brown was a Tennessee Titan. We didn't have him, and that was kind of the first year of Sirianni and Hurts together. And every other game but one, and that one happens to be that 2023 game in which the Eagles won. A.J. Brown has missed all those games. So he is healthy. He is ready to go in this game, as is pretty much everybody else on the offensive side of the football. Lane Johnson will be playing, so the Eagles have their full complement of weapons on the offensive side of the ball. On the defensive side, it's a little different. We know Nolan Smith is on IR. We know Jacorian Bennett is on IR. Dory Jackson is doubtful, which there's just like 95% chance he won't play. So it's going to be up to Keely Ringo, who's next in line to start on the outside. Jahad Campbell and Zach Bond, who were both limited in practice earlier this week, were a full go today, so they're good to go. Of course, I just feel like every time we go into Tampa, somebody's hurt. Somebody that is going to be of importance is hurt. Fortunately for us, you don't ever wish injury on anything, but Tampa's also dealing with some injuries. Mike Evans is out, And then questionable Baker Mayfield, he's going to play. Chris Godwin and Tristan Wirfs, who haven't played yet this year, of course, they are making their return. So we get them in their first action for Tampa Bay. Logan Hall, one of their defensive ends, is also questionable, and he's going to play as well. Your initial thoughts, Connor, on this matchup, on the injuries, on anything that comes to mind as you were researching and doing some stuff on the Eagles and Tampa Bay game?
Well, the one thing that I always worry about when we face Tampa Bay, and the biggest thing that's probably going to end up being a discussion that we continue on further in this episode, is how the Eagles manage the blitz. They seem to really, they don't seem to. They struggle against the blitz. It seems like it's always been an issue with Jalen Hurts at quarterback. I don't know if it's a Jalen Hurts thing. I don't know if it's the way the offense is run. But I mean, when you look at it, one would have to assume that it's a Jalen Hurts thing, because as you continue down the line, we've had a number of different offensive coordinators. They've all struggled against the blitz. And the only thing that remains the same is the offensive line, which does a tremendous job for the most part, and Jalen Hurts. So it'll be interesting.
And Nick Sirianni.
But I don't think Nick Sirianni's sitting there having much of an impact on how they manage the blitz. I could be wrong, but I don't feel like he would. But injury-wise, Zach Bond, it was less than 24 hours after we recorded the Tuesday episode, there was that bombshell Philadelphia Eagles media post where they showed the three sign-ins to the active roster, which was Cam Latu, Marcus Epps, guys who were coming up on their fourth time being called up anyways from the practice squad. Then they announced, Quez Watkins is back. And then they announced those three guys who were going to the IR, which was Jacorian Bennett, Nolan Smith, and Darius Cooper. Nolan Smith was a bit of a shock, but I guess after the fact, the tricep strain, it kind of makes sense. It sounds like they intend on having them all back post-bye. So by week 10, they're hoping to have them all back. Nolan Smith's the only major impact player, I think, out of that group. Jacorian Bennett may have become an impact player, depending on how the injury with Adoree Jackson went, and depending on how the CB2 battle continued to go. But good thing we got Zadarius Smith, because Zadarius Smith is about to go from a 25% snap count to probably closer to 50%, and going to be a lot more vital piece of this defensive group going forward. I know Joshua Uche's been playing well. So it's going to be, Jalen Hunt is definitely going to be thrust into a starting role, I think. And then a good split between guys like Uche, Zadarius Smith. Jihad Campbell's probably going to work his way down to the edge like he has been. I think when I was looking at the only thing you can trust PFF for, apparently, when I was looking at the snap counts, he actually has been, he has seen, I think it was almost 30 or 40 snaps as an edge rusher. So Campbell is seeing a bit of time down on that defensive line, getting some work in down there. So I wouldn't be surprised if they mix him in there a little bit more. So defensively, I guess so from the reaction standpoint on the injuries too, it was worrisome to see Campbell and Bond up there this early in the season. We talked Tuesday about how healthy Campbell has been, and then boom, he appears as a limited participant and has an injury that's lingering around right now. So that kind of sucks. But Zach Bond being hurt definitely sucks too. We need both of those guys to be healthy. I guess it's kind of a good thing that Kobe Dean's coming back, because maybe those two guys playing nearly 100% of snaps do need to be pulled back a little bit, and there needs to be a split between those three guys for the two roles that they're going to have. And we do know Nakobe Dean is able to come back as of week 5. So as of next week, Nakobe Dean's able to come back, and he may actually be thrust into it at the earliest convenience with the injuries that have appeared for the Philadelphia Eagles. And then, of course, on the defensive side, initial reaction is it's going to be Ringo time. I don't see any other way around it. I think that's going to be Kelee Ringo's opportunity. And Kelee Ringo looked bad in the preseason. Bad enough that he lost to Adoree Jackson, who looked pretty bad too. So it'll be really interesting. I guess the good thing is it's Chris Godwin's first meaningful football action. Like it's his preseason, so that could be an advantage. But Chris Godwin also plays quite a bit at the slot, so that's more of a Cooper DeJean assignment than a Keely Ringo assignment, which then leaves Emeka Egbuka as the likely Kenyon Mitchell shadow assignment, because the rest of them, it's like, Sterling Shepard, it's Tez Johnson. It's not really anyone who strikes fear. Ones that this is a good game for Keely Ringo to get his feet wet and show that hopefully he's able to stop some wide receivers like we didn't see happening in the preseason.
Yeah, I was going to bring up Nakobe Dean being able to come off the pup next week. Definitely a good time for that. And depending on how the edge rushers do and getting after Baker Mayfield, who does get rid of the ball quickly, maybe Jahad Campbell could shift down and become an edge rusher, or rush the passer, which would get Nakobe Dean on the field quicker than anticipated. Zadarius Smith, we talked about after last week's game, that the Eagles were in base a lot, and he's not up to par. He wasn't up to par with the playbook yet. So, but this week they probably throw a bunch at him with Nolan Smith being out, because he's going to have to be the guy that steps up, like you mentioned. He's going to have to play more snaps. He's probably the best pure pass rusher and the best pure defensive end on the team. So like he'd be good against the run. He can get after the quarterback and using the veteran instincts. It'll be interesting to see I think it would be Hunt that would be up against Tristan Wirfs. We'll see if he can use his speed against the guy coming back from injury. And maybe he'll be a tick slower than he normally would be. The Bucs offensive line is beat up. A couple of starters out. Cody Malk and Luke Gadecki are both out. So Charlie Heck is stepping in. Luke Haggard is stepping in. So I think of the five that started week one, only two are there. And obviously they're getting Tristan Wirfs back, so that's a big positive for them. But still, the continuity might not be there. So hopefully the Eagles are able to cause some confusion. We know Vic Fangio is not the biggest fan of calling blitzes, but he's had to do a lot of that this year because the front front five haven't been able to get there as frequently as he would like. So we'll see what they're going to be able to do this week. And they want to try to get to Baker, but like I said, Baker gets rid of the ball really fast. So we'll see if they're able to. The secondary is also able to stay locked with Egbuka, because he's really good. He's probably going to win Offensive Rookie of the Year. He's been that good so far. And like you mentioned, Q will probably shadow him. Chris Godwin, we'll see what happens there. I mean, maybe it's a good matchup for Ringo when he's on the outside. Cooper DeJean will handle him when he's on the inside. I do wonder if the Eagles will potentially try Coop on the outside. I know Fangio doesn't want to, but if they're forced into that, maybe they'll give it a go. Let Mac McWilliams play in the slot, or Andrew Makuba in the slot. And if you put another safety back there, I don't know who it would be, since we don't really have anybody right now, because I don't trust Sidney Brown. So that'll be interesting to see what what Fangio and the defensive staff decide to do. And it's going to be key for the Eagles front to try to slow down and contain Bucky Irving, because the Eagles haven't really been good against the run so far this year. Dallas got some good runs off of them. Patrick Mahomes did. That was the QB running. And while Baker doesn't want to, he definitely can run the football. And then last week, Kyron Williams had a decent day running the football. So the Eagles definitely have to figure that portion of it out. They've been giving up a lot more big runs than anticipated, and that they would like to. So it's just, this Buccaneers team is good. Now, if you look at who they've beat, the combined record of the three teams they beat is 1-8. The combined records of the teams the Eagles have beat is 4-5, I think. So, you can look at and the way that the Bucs have won. They've scored the go-ahead touchdowns in the last minute of all three games. So while their Buccaneers are 3-0, they haven't played great. Are they a good team? Yeah, they're a good team. And they're obviously going through injuries, and maybe they're just taking it, day by day, step by step, to building to be a great team. But if there was any time that the Eagles can get after the Buccaneers and kind of stop the skid that they're on against Todd Bowles, this would be it, because this Buccaneers team, no Mike Evans, winning ugly. Again, a win is a win, but they have been winning ugly. So it'll be interesting to see how the game turns out this week.
Yeah, to your point, they have yet to win a game by more than 3 points. They've won by 3, 2, and 1 exactly. So, as you said, I mean, this feels like an opportunity for the Eagles if they can get ahead by multiple scores. Even a touchdown and a field goal might be enough, or even if you're ahead by some sort of three field goals, like some way of getting up, like by
a 2-score game,
by enough. Yeah, exactly. To make the Bucs have to really work for it. That is definitely seems like at this point the advantage. I mean, the national media has kind of hyped this matchup up as like a potential playoff preview, a potential like divisional round preview matchup. So I mean, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, in comparison to some of the other NFC teams, some of the other NFC teams clearly look a lot better. Green Bay looks better. Detroit looks a lot better. The Eagles are looking, I would say the Eagles are better than the Buccaneers, but both the Eagles and the Buccaneers have different weaknesses and different issues going on on the offensive and the defensive sides of the football. So it'll be really interesting to see, where this goes, because like you said, for the running, the Eagles have not been that good against the run. They ranked 24th in rushing yards allowed and 27th in yards per attempt. Not great, not something we're generally used to. They usually are pretty good at clogging the up front and making it really difficult, forcing them outside. And then when you get outside, you're faced with guys like Zach Bond, Cooper DeJean, this year, Jahad Campbell. As much as we may criticize him, Reed Blankenship can lay a hammer down when he has the right, when he's got you lined up and queued up properly. He can give a good hit. So, I mean, it just doesn't feel like we're doing it to the same degree from a Russian defense perspective. We've given up over 100 rushing yards each week, and it's gotten worse. The Cowboys had 119, the Chiefs had 121, the Rams had 160, and you could argue of all the run back, I mean, Javonte Williams is a major surprise in my eyes this year. You knew that he was going to get a lot of opportunity, but to be as effective as he has been with the opportunity. And then Isaiah Pacheco, the Kansas City Chiefs rushing attack has been not that great, but obviously Patrick Mahomes, if you let him use his legs, can do some work. And then you had Kyron Williams and Blake Corum do a bit of damage, but I mean, Bucky Irvin could arguably be, I mean, I think Kyron Williams is a better back, but Bucky Irvin's could be the second best back that you face this season. So he could definitely do some damage if given the opportunity to do that. Hopefully, the injuries affecting like Jahad Campbell and Zach Bond aren't in a way that they're going to be afraid to lay a hit or put a good tackle on somebody, because sometimes those injuries can affect players and their mindset to, running into a big hit or running into a big play. So it'll be interesting to see how that goes, because the Bucs do rank 7th in rushing attempts and 7th in rushing yards. So that they're definitely going to be using that and trying to exploit a weakness with Philadelphia, especially, the longer you keep the Eagles defense on the football field in this heat, we've seen it cause this wreak havoc with this team and their capabilities of what they can do on the field if long drives are sustained for too long of a time. And we know Baker Mayfield can run as well. So it's going to be crucial that the Philadelphia Eagles make some big stops. They actually ranked 21st in third down stops, third down percentage allowed. So they do give up a lot of third downs to teams. So hopefully, they don't get into a situation where it's third and short, because it feels like it's almost a guarantee that they're going to give it up to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, especially given how they've been against the run. Being down Mike Evans is definitely and this being Chris Godwin's first game, I think plays a bit of it plays as a major benefit for the Eagles, especially missing Dory Jackson and Jacorian Bennett. However, they have other ways of going after this defense, and it's at one of the where this defense is the weakest.
As Keith says, Jahad Campbell is not good against the run. Teams do look to take advantage of his inexperience and kind of trickle him, whether it's by pulling linemen and kind of changing his eye direction. And as you're supposed to follow the ball, and sometimes it can get tough when for a linebacker or even for defensive linemen when there's a bunch of congestion there and you start following somebody that you shouldn't be following. So we'll see. And this is where Zach Baun could continue to teach the young guy to work on his drops, work on his eyes and figuring out where he should be going. He's still really good. Like, he is top 2, top 3 in the running for defensive rookie of the year. So we're not going to downplay that. And also, like, this could help if we get Nakobe Dean, we were talking about, get him back next week. He's been like a coach. You just see it. He's on the sideline, always with around the linebackers, helping them out, and just getting him back onto the field. Now, probably he won't be out there a lot, obviously, because coming back from that injury that he sustained in the playoffs last year, I mean, it's not going to be easy. So just getting him back out on the field, and then again, maybe being able to use Jahad Campbell in other spots, whether they're primarily rushing the passer, depending on how the guys do without Nolan Smith. So just adding to the defense, adding pieces to this defense definitely cannot hurt. I definitely keep staying on the defensive side of the ball. Love to see Jalen Carter get better. See Jordan Davis continue. He's been a monster the first 3 games of the year. Obviously, the field goal block last year, just his and returning it for a touchdown, rushing or chasing down Matt Stafford last week, forcing a punt, I believe. So just keep up. I think he is the only defensive tackle with multiple bad pass deflections, I think, from the line. Like, he's just been all over the field, and you can see all the hard work that he put in the offseason. Definitely, he definitely showing up on the field. And everybody's taking notice. And we mentioned it on Tuesday, like, Howie Roseman might have saved himself some money, at least right now, because if he didn't pick up that 5th-year option, the contract that he would have had to give Jordan Davis after the season, as of right now, obviously things can change between now and the end of the season, would be mighty, mighty big. But, I mean, Howie's the mad scientist for a reason, so he understood the assignment. Just trying to think. That second corner position is still definitely worrisome. Keely Ringo, they did everything to just give him that position, and he couldn't run away with it. They brought in Dory Jackson, traded for Jacorian Bennett. They're both going to be hurt, or they're both hurt, so they're going to be out. So this is his chance to kind of try to take stranglehold of that. And again, there's not a great second receiver. Chris Godwin is really good, but he, like you mentioned, he primarily plays the slot. So he might be covering Sterling Shepard a lot of the time. That's not necessarily, Mike Evans, obviously, or Emeka Ibuka. So just maybe that'll get him some confidence, hopefully, as they, as you go to the next couple of weeks before we get into, like, say that if he has to play in, say, the Minnesota game, Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, Adam Thielen, there's a good trio of receivers. You're going to be tested that game if you're on the field. So let's get him some confidence, and let's see if he can build game after game after game before he has to go up against real competition.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, like this would have been like, a get right game, for a guy like Adoree Jackson this weekend. I mean, he didn't have a bad showing last week, but and this week, like, I wouldn't, like, if Keely Ringo if he's a complete shutdown corner this week, then okay, that's something to talk about. But I mean, we expect that he hopefully should be able to perform to some degree of effectiveness against this wide receiving group. And it would be a good start for him to perform well against his wide receiving group. Otherwise, if not, it would be really unfortunate because we then, with Adoree Jackson likely coming back from an injury the next week, how long can Howie continue to prolong this CB2 battle within, like, his best bet and all of his chips were going to be pushed in on Jacorian Bennett. And with Jacorian Bennett out until week 10, you know that you're going to have to address the position again, which is frustrating because we were talking about before we came on the air, they've now addressed kick return on multiple occasions this year. And now we have, John Mechie's obviously playing the wide receiver role, predominantly a return role. Tank Bigsby was brought in, depth running back piece. Now he's going to be a kick return option as well. And now you got Gibson coming into the fold. So now you got three guys who are predominantly in some way, shape, or form supposed to be kick return guys and won't do very much for you on the offensive side of the football. So at some point, I feel like Howie is going to have to take another look at the CB2 position because I still don't think Adoree Jackson's going to be the answer. And like you said, once we go up, and there's not a lot of teams that have like a good, solid trio of wide receivers. But when you have that opportunity that you're going to go up against a trio like that Minnesota Vikings matchup, that could just show Howie that the CB2 position remains a need and is going to continue to remain a need when they can continue to pick on that same position and that same person who's in that position over and over again. Got some comments here. The blind businessman says, I think this is going to be a battle of wills with the Heat. Look for the game to change in the fourth quarter.
The only thing about that is Tampa's used to it because they obviously practice in it all the time, playing it all the time. They're from there. That's why I hope as we get late into this game, it's not a one possession game or, the Buccaneers have the ball down by 2, down by 4, whatever it is, driving, because that's what they've done all season so far. They have won even against the lowly Jets. Last week, the Jets got the blocked field goal to return it for a touchdown, and Baker took them down the field for the game-winning field goal to win by 1. So it's going to come. It could come down to who has the ball last. But Baker even said he was on a podcast or on a show, whatever, this week, and he's like, he doesn't think the Eagles are leaving today, left today already. Go down there, try to assimilate, and they'll practice on Saturday, practice tomorrow. We'll walk through anything, but he's like, you can't really do it with one day. You're not going to really assimilate to the Heat that you're going to be impacted by. Like, it's really tough to do that in one day. So we'll see if it helps. I do like the fact that Sirianni has learned from past experience. I'll say learn with quotes because you never know. Like, he's trying something different. And maybe it'll help, maybe it won't. But at least he's trying something different because he knows that, like, Todd Bowles and the Heat and all that have been their bugaboo. The Eagles with Jalen Hurts starting and finishing game haven't lost in over a year. Think about that. The Tampa Bay Week 4 last year was the last loss the Eagles have with Jalen Hurts starting and finishing a game. Obviously, the other loss was Washington. Jalen played 9 plays. That's it. And they still could have won that game if Devontae Smith catches the ball on 3rd down from Kenny Pickett. That game's over and the Eagles win. And that means if everything else played out right, they would have finished the year on like a 17-game winning streak. This team is 19-1 in their last in their last 20 games. And obviously Tampa Bay being the team that has the most success against this iteration of the Eagles with Sirianni and Hurts, definitely going to be a fun battle.
Yeah, I think it was Jordan Mailata or somebody also said that they've been spending some extra time in the sauna as well.
Jordan Davis said that.
Jordan Davis says so, trying to get acclimated to the Heat and stuff. I agree. Like, I don't like, because I know that, and I know it wouldn't be a very significant practice, but there was the report earlier when they said they were traveling a day early that they were also going to maybe run a practice on Saturday in the Heat just to kind of simulate the Heat situation. I don't know how much that's going to do. But I agree with you. Like, it's good to see that Nick Sirianni is trying something different, but it feels like, you probably should have left Thursday night so you could have conducted your Friday practice in that heat and get like a good, regular weekday practice in, because I don't know about the idea of running a practice on Saturday just to acclimate yourself to the heat. The blind businessman, who would you say the Bucks' best offensive weapon will be this weekend?
It's one of three. It's going to be one of three.
I'll start. I think it's going to be Bucky Irvin. I think Bucky Irvin's been and the only reason I say Bucky Irvin is because the other option, Emeka Egbuka, I feel like will be shadowed and could have one of his tougher cornerback matchups with Kenyon Mitchell this week, because I feel like you can afford to really have Kenyon Mitchell shadow him for almost 100% of snaps all the way through the game. Unless they set him up in a way that catches him off guard, he can almost shadow the entirety of it. Where I think one of the bigger weaknesses for the Philadelphia Eagles, and we just discussed it a few minutes ago, is their Russian defense. They haven't been able to be as effective against the run as we've seen in prior seasons. And Bucky Irvin is, let me take a look. Bucky Irvin is 174 yards on 56 attempts and a 14 of 14 through the air for 91 yards and a touchdown. So he's been extremely effective as a check down piece, and he's been extremely effective on the ground, and he's going up against a defense.
He's only averaging 3 yards a carry.
3.1 yards per carry. Yep.
That's worse than Saquon, who's having a bad year.
I know, and that's the thing. And then hopefully, having Tristan Wirfs back will help. But obviously, for Tristan Wirfs and Chris Godwin, it's like a preseason game. There's going to be some rest that you got to shake off. And I don't expect them to come out and be at the top of their game this week. But I feel like for me, based on the matchup, based on how the Eagles have played the run, that I'm going to go with Bucky Irvin. What about you, LJ?
There's three: Bucky Irvin, Emeka Egbuka, or Baker Mayfield. And I think it's Baker Mayfield, just because he's going to have the ball in his hands, and what he's been able to do the first three weeks of the year, leading his team to victories in the last minute. Like, even if they're against bad teams, it's still tough to do on a week in and week out basis. So, they're eventually, as they get healthy, they're probably going to hit their stride. Who knows? And he's found a second life or third life in Tampa Bay. After getting drafted by Cleveland and then going to Carolina and going to LA and just kind of go in a couple places over the league. And who thought that he would be the heir apparent to Tom Brady in Tampa Bay? And he's definitely done it really well for them. They've won the Division 4. They've won the Division 4 years in a row. So he's taking advantage of every opportunity. Got a big payday, and he's making Tampa Bay look really smart for that decision.
And when you say they've won the division every year, I know it's hard to win the division, but you have to remember
Tennessee South does suck.
Falcons, the New Orleans Saints, the Carolina,
the worst division in football.
Carolina Panthers, definitely the worst division in football.
Or the AFC. Both South divisions are bad.
Yeah, definitely. Both South divisions are terrible. Adams exploits Baker Mayfield as question mark. I have no idea why.
Bicep.
It's because he got hurt in the game prior, but obviously he's good to go. Adams, same thing. He says a bunch of Eagles were in the sauna today, trying to get used to the heat and humidity.
They've actually been doing it all week.
Yeah, and that's a great practice and all, and it's probably going to help a little bit, and they're definitely getting unique and different in how they're managing things. But you're not doing wind sprints in a sauna or anything that is,
I honestly think
a game simulating a game situation.
I honestly think the most important thing for them this week is to hydrate. We can go back to that 2000 game in Dallas when the Eagles did drink pickle juice on the sideline, and it helped them. I'm not saying they're going to bring out the pickle juice this week, but this week they should have been hydrating, whether it's obviously water, Gatorade, protein shakes, whatever it is. Hydrate, because when you're going to be wearing your dark greens, when you put all those pads on, it's going to feel over 100 degrees on the field. You're going to sweat profusely. So this week should have been all about hydrate. Keep your body temperature at a normal level. It's different heat obviously in Pennsylvania than it is in Florida, but it hasn't been cold here. It's been warm. So that may help a little bit, but obviously being able to stay hydrated throughout the week and then continuing the hydration when you get down to Florida, and then during the game time, just keep putting it away. And, the one thing that's going to be key for the Eagles defense is not giving up long drives, getting off the field on third down, not allowing Tampa to get into third and short so that they can easily convert a first down and stay on the field. Because if the Eagles are going to be on the field for 35 to 40 minutes defensively, you're going to lose the game. You want to get off the field and force their defense on the field and keep Baker off the field. So by being able to sack Baker or force turnovers, that will help them because they won't be on the field and they won't be like dying out there in the heat.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I just wanted to flip the conversation to the offensive side of the ball for a few minutes before we get into our keys of the game and prediction. I think Jalen Hurts, AJ Brown, Kevin Petula maybe kind of shut the critics down this past week. Of course, they were forced to throw the football. They were put behind the 8 ball. They had to come back from 19 down. They weren't going to do it the way that Kevin Petula was calling plays. So whatever happened, whatever changed, I feel like that has to be something. They have to find the balance between the second half of last week and the rest of what we've seen this season. They have to find a way to be able to get Saquon Barkley involved, but to the same point, also keep the passing game involved in a way that it doesn't get too cold and that it doesn't continue to force, 8-man boxes. I think it was Jeff Kerr posted that the Eagles are seeing obviously the third highest rate of 8-man boxes in the NFL this season. It's at over 30% right now. It makes perfect sense. What reason would a team have been given up until the second half against the Rams to not load up the box? So I think that it'll be important. I mean, they got Vita Vea. They got Levante David. Hassan Reddick is there. I don't think he's done a whole lot in Tampa, but I mean, he's still there. He's still someone that you have to consider. They got pieces there that can make plays, and Vita Vea makes things very difficult on the interior already. And Saquon Barkley is struggling to find his way outside and by pulling off those big runs that were so crucial last year. So I think that it's important to find a way to balance, what Kevin Petula clearly wanted to push through the first, 2 weeks and one half of football versus what we saw in the second half of football against the LA Rams. I think it's going to be really important to balance that out and be sure that you can have your full complement of weapons on display, because last year was, it was for the most part all about Saquon Barkley and no one could stop him. This year, Saquon Barkley is getting stopped, but you still got Dallas Goedert. You still got Devontae Smith. You still got A.J. Brown. And they have all shown when the ball's been thrown to them and when needed to, they stand out and they make plays happen. And I think it's going to be important. I think that, the Eagles have to start to use the entire complement of their weapons, balance it through a full 60-minute game and through the rest of this season, because I don't think you're going to go back to what you got last year where you could have Saquon Barkley going for 2,000 yards and just running all over the football field week in and week out. I think that teams are really trying hard to shut that down. And I mean, Kevin Petula's made it easy, but what happens if you start to open up the field by throwing the ball and taking that second half and spreading it through a more balanced approach through the whole game?
Yeah, last year they ran the ball to open up the pass. This year they might have to throw the ball to open up the run. And it also doesn't help that the offensive line hasn't been as good as they were last year, and it's primarily the interior three. Landon Dickerson's been hurt, so he came into the season coming off a meniscus surgery, so he hasn't been up to par. Cam Jerkins has been okay, but he hasn't been as good as he is. And Tyler Steen, first year starting, he's not Mekhi Becton. And that, when you're talking about the interior of the line, you mentioned Vita Vea, trying to go up against him, not going to be easy. When you're talking about whether it's running the tush push or just trying to get short yardage up the middle, like they're going to have to find a way to solve the Vita Vea problem, because he is really good. This is a Buccaneers team who I think hasn't given up 100 yards rushing in 11 games in a row, dating back to last year, which is insanely good, obviously. And the Eagles, while I think they're averaging over 100 yards rushing because Jalen obviously does his large part of it. And Saquon's averaging about 60-ish yards, if I'm not mistaken, 60 to 70 yards rushing a game. He's going to get his eventually. but maybe like he's not obviously hasn't had that start that he had last year. So it could take passing the ball to open up the run. And I think that second half of last week should have shown Patula and Sirianni that Jalen can do it. You know what Tampa is going to do. They're going to blitz you. That's what Todd Bowles does, especially against Jalen Hurts, because obviously, remember that comment he made, 3-4 years ago? He can't read the blitz. He can't read the field, or whatever. So they're going to test that theory again. They're going to bring pressure. It's going to be up to the offensive line to communicate it. And, there was times last week when, and now Matt Pryor was in the game. So fortunately, Lane Johnson's going to play because Matt Pryor was beyond terrible last week. Still don't know how he was ranked third. Was it third highest by PFF, that crappy site that you like to talk about all the time? But there were times when there was miscommunication, whether it was between Pryor and Barkley, Steen and Barkley. But then on the touchdown, I believe it was the touchdown pass to A.J. Brown, great communication between Steen and Barkley. Steen turned around, patted his backside to say, this is the side I want you to go, Saquon. Saquon went that side, picked up the blitzer. Jalen was able to throw the ball to A.J. Brown, touchdown. That's the type of communication we're going to need. The only thing is Todd Bowles gets really exotic with his blitzes. So he is going to come from somewhere you don't expect it. He'll use all the weapons he has. He'll use Antoine Winfield. He likes to blitz him a lot. Obviously they'll use Levante David. So that's going to be the interesting thing. Who is it that's coming, and can you stop them? And if you're able to diagnose that and figure that out and give Jalen even a half a second more than the Buccaneers hope to get, or hope to allow him to get, you'll be able to hit your receivers on the outside.
Yeah, I think it's going to be important to use motion, use some hard counts, and try and figure out exactly, like you said, who's coming after you. And if you can't figure out who's coming after you, at least hopefully, and Jalen Hurts has gotten way better at this, knowing where a check down option is, whether that's Saquon Barkley, whether that's Jahan Dotson, Devontae Smith, A.J. Brown, Dallas Goedert. They've all been used in similar situations where they just run a short route and they're left open for a short amount of time. Know your check down options or get the ball away. And he's gotten way better at that than he had been in years prior. And we talked about this in the last episode. So, but it is important to know, like you said, they haven't really gotten better at going up against the blitz with Jalen Hurts as a quarterback, which is what makes me continue to believe that Jalen Hurts is the problem when it comes to that. And that quote, like you said, tells it all, that he continues to struggle with it. And it's just going to be important that, Kevin Patula, hopefully watching the tape, he watched tape after week 1 and made it in the offense look the exact same in week 2. But this offense is going to have to look a lot different this week to protect further against the blitz, because the Tampa Bay Buccaneers do, I had the numbers up, they do blitz at one of the high, they blitz at the 4th highest rate in the NFL at 34.7%. So, and that if they know it's a weakness of the quarterback, that 34% is going to easily go to closer to 50%. And I think in previous matchups, it's been over 50% that they've blitzed Jalen Hurts, because they know it's an area that this offense struggles in. Adam says, not that comment. This comment, Dickerson and Juergens are playing hurt, I believe. I don't know. I would tend to agree. I don't know if Juergens ever got back to 100% from that back injury that he had last year. Like that was a tough injury to play through, and then to come back and you just say you're 100% and you're running the tush push on top of him continuously still. I would agree with that. And Dickerson, we know, hasn't been right since the preseason
open
and
practice
season workouts. Yeah, it was the open practice when he was missing time. We know, I don't think Dickerson's ever been 100% since then. And of course, humidity, if it's like strains, cramps, anything to do with muscles, like it could be for Dickerson and Juergens, the heat's just going to wreak havoc on them from that perspective. So I do agree. Like he says, Greg Cosell has said Steen had been playing well. Greg Cosell, very good, very, very intelligent when watching tape. I agree. I don't necessarily believe that Tyler Steen and Lane Johnson, like that side of the line, is the issue. I feel the issue is coming with Dickerson and Juergens, and knowing that both of those guys, I would put so much money on it that neither of those guys are 100%. Neither of them will be 100% at any point this year unless they just get rest and don't play. And obviously outside of the bye week, that just isn't going to happen.
I also think Steen is much better pass blocker than run blocker, and that could be affecting the run game. He's not a mauler like Mekhi Becton is. So that's a change. He's a different type of guard than Becton is. So you got to take the good with the bad, and again, I'm not saying he's playing terrible. He's just not that mauler. And gets the push that Becton was able to do. But eventually they'll get it going if they continue to get healthier.
Yeah, I mean, it's Jeff Stoutland. Jeff Stoutland is definitely, while we may not fully trust Kevin Petula, we can definitely trust that Jeff Stoutland is watching that tape, analyzing that tape, talking to his guys, and making sure that they get it right. If there is one position group I trust to get right by probably before the bye week, it's going to be this offensive line. The only thing that's probably holding them back from getting there, maybe guys not being 100% and some injuries affecting the way that some guys are playing. But I trust that Jeff Stoutland will get that right.
Why did Stoutland leave Pryor in for how many possessions? That is my only question.
But do we genuinely believe that was Jeff Stoutland's choice? Well, we know that Vic Fangio probably has more of a say. Do we trust that Jeff Stoutland could go up to Petula or Sirianni and say, get Pryor off the field? Because I agree with you. He should have said it way sooner.
It is Stoutland runs the offensive line. Stoutland has the say of who goes in next. Yes, that was Stoutland. I will put that on Stoutland. It took way too long to take Pryor out the game.
Absolutely. And I think that the big thing maybe there was like they said after the game, he hadn't played on the right side of the line, Fred Johnson. So they wanted to give Matt Pryor an opportunity because, if you give him the opportunity, maybe he'll get better. Maybe it was just, Fred, his first snaps of the season and he's going and he just wasn't feeling it. But yeah, you can definitely tell you brought Fred Johnson back. He's a swing tackle for a reason. I don't think it matters if he practices on the left or the right or mixes it up on both sides. He is your swing tackle. You brought him back because you knew you needed a swing tackle. That move had to be made way sooner. I absolutely agree. And I also agree with this point that Adams' exploits makes Barkley is not good at picking up blitzes. No, and I've seen there's been a couple plays where Barkley clearly has missed this year on his assignment as a blocker, which has been kind of frustrating as well, because we know Saquon Barkley is a high IQ football player. We know that he should be picking up on those things. And I don't know if it's just, more things being exploited and weaknesses.
Is it strictly Barkley, or is it just miscommunication with the offensive line? Because if you're an offensive lineman, it goes from inside out because the inside person has the easiest path to the quarterback, and maybe Barkley thinks, all right, they're going to take the inside guys, so he'll go outside. That's where the communication comes into play. That's why on the touchdown pass to AJ, when Steen turned around, said like he patted himself on the back to the way that he wanted Barkley to go, and they picked up each guy. Steen picked up his guy, Barkley picked up his guy, touchdown pass. All it takes is communication. That's what I believe.
Absolutely. I mean, I think there was one play I saw, and I don't think it was a Rams game, but Barkley was clearly a blocker in the backfield. He was standing there like a blocker, and a guy came blasting through Tyler Steen, and he did not pick up on the block whatsoever. And the person ended up taking out Jalen Hurts or getting after Jalen Hurts. So there are some situations where, yes, I agree, it's probably a bit of communication, but there's also some circumstances where I think you have to read the play, know the play, and be prepared, especially if you're predominantly starting that play, or most of that play is meant for you to be a blocker, and then eventually he's going to split out as a receiving option. So it'll be interesting to see. I agree with you. I think the communication hasn't been 100% there. And I think on the left side of the line, the health hasn't been 100% there. So there may be some things that need to change to be able to help get past both of those weaknesses that may plague the offensive line a little bit longer.
Yep. So we'll see if the Eagles offense is able to diagnose a game plan that can hurt the defense of Tampa Bay when they bring pressure. All right, so as we get to our final segments of the evening, we're going to do our players to watch, keys to the game, followed by our unheralded player of the week for week 3, followed finally by our prediction. Connor, you can go first.
So key to the game on the offensive side of the ball is we've ragged on it. Pick up the blitz. Find a way to work the blitz against Todd Bowles, and obviously that's a near impossible task. But despite the fact that they blitz at such a high rate, their pressure percentage actually hasn't been that great. I think the amount of pressure that they've actually produced is less than the Philadelphia Eagles, and we blitz almost 10% less of the time. So they're not getting home as effectively, even with blitzes, as we would anticipate. So there, I feel like there is a way that the Philadelphia Eagles can find a way to get through this blitz. I just don't know if they're going to actually genuinely end up being able to, because they haven't been able to figure it out with Jalen Hurts at the quarterback position across 4 seasons now. But it's going to be important. Figure out a way to manage the blitz, give Jalen Hurts the time that he needs, and don't allow making the blitz easier. If they're able to stack the box, if you don't think that stacking the box with 8 men, Todd Bowles isn't going to get extra creative and exotic, to use your word, with the blitz, you'd be out of your mind. This is definitely a game. Adam's over here saying I'm worried about this game. I think when me and you did our our record prediction episode, I think we had the Eagles both coming out of this 3-1, this stretch of 4 games at 3-1, or we said it's totally possible they could come out of this stretch of games at 2-2, and we would still be confident in the direction of the season. And right now, they have a high likelihood. They obviously will come out at 3-1. There's a chance, there's a likelihood that they can come out of this stretch 4-0. And I think we both agreed that this was probably one of the hardest stretches, if not the hardest stretch of 4 games of the whole season. So if you can come out 3-1 or 4-0, while maybe this game worries you, I think that we have done very well to come out of this relatively unscathed, because there's a totally a world where we could have come out of this 1-3, or we totally could have come out of this 2-2, and I feel much better at 3-1. Hopefully 4-0. And for my player to watch for the Philadelphia Eagles on the offensive side of the ball, it goes hand in hand with the blitz, Jalen Hurts. I mean, Jalen Hurts has shown he can throw the ball. He put on a good showing, but for 2.5 games before that, he didn't. I don't know. Finally, he found his voice at halftime last game, like we kind of alluded to in our last episode, or not. I don't know. And he changed things, but hopefully there's a more balanced approach. Hopefully he starts picking up the blitz. Hopefully he knows where his checkdowns are and the guys that he needs to get the ball to in a quick situation. Take the least amount of sacks necessary and continue to not turn the ball over. And I think in this situation, I'm not worried about turning the ball over. I'm way more, although we have turned the ball over quite a few times against the Bucs in the past, I'm more worried about picking up that blitz, seeing that blitz, making plays happen before that blitz. It's going to be something that Jalen Hurts isn't used to, like other quarterbacks are against us. Get the ball out quick, make plays happen quick, force Todd Bowles to pull a bit back on that blitz. Show him that you've been doing the studying and that you can pick up on that stuff. On the defensive side of the ball, I mean, we have struggled to get after the quarterback through not that I guess we haven't struggled to get after the quarterback so much as we've struggled to actually stop the quarterback when we get after him. We've seen a lot of the missed tackles for losses. We've seen a lot of the missed sacks. We've seen a lot of opportunities that have gone. Baker Mayfield is a guy that if you let him get out of the pocket, he gets so creative. He can make a lot of plays happen. So try and keep him in the pocket. Try and make him make plays. This is Chris Godwin's first game. He doesn't have Mike Evans. Cade Otton hasn't been, this over a while. He's going to be someone who we may have to pay more attention to. But hopefully Jihad Campbell, with his high IQ from a coverage standpoint, is able to look after Cade Otton. But keep Baker Mayfield from getting out of the pocket, because I feel like Baker Mayfield is best when he becomes mobile and when he gets the opportunity to flush out the pocket and make some plays happen. Keep him in the pocket, get some sacks. I think it's going to be so important. This is a game where I would love to see Jordan Davis and Jalen Carter put it together because we've seen Jordan Davis put these games together, but we haven't seen Jalen Carter get there. This is now going to be Jalen Carter's third game of the season. The rush should be off. It's time to work with Jordan Davis and wreak the havoc because you know you're down Nolan Smith on the outside. My player to watch this game on the defensive side of the ball is going to be Kenyon Mitchell. I think it's going to be important the Q shuts down whatever assignment he has because he's going to be on the guy who is going to be the most important pass target for Baker Mayfield.
That was a lot. On the offensive side of the ball, is going to be prepared for the blitz. Have your outlets, have your quick hitters ready. They don't typically have it in this offense, which is annoying. It's so annoying after 5 years that they still don't have blitz beaters. So hopefully that they've installed them knowing that Todd Bowles is going to do it. My offensive player is going to be A.J. Brown. The Eagles, again, in the 4 losses that they've had in the Sirianni era, A.J. hasn't been on the field. In their 1 win, A.J. was on the field. So I'm going to go A.J. Brown as my player to watch just because he can impact the game in so many different ways. Because if he can get going, that'll keep the blitz, that'll force Tampa out of their blitz. Maybe can open up the running lanes for Saquon. On the defensive side of the football, my player is going to be Keely Ringo, and it's going to be the second or whoever the second corner is, because if Quinyon is going to be on Emeka Egbuka the entire game, that means Sterling Shepard, Chris Godwin, Keely Ringo is going to have to prove that he belongs out there. They tried to give him the position, and he just didn't take it. So Keely Ringo is going to have to prove his worth, or he's not going to be here much longer with his former Georgia teammates. So he needs to step up, show up, and prove that he belongs out onto the field. And if he can play well, again, get him confidence going up, as we get into heading towards that same Minnesota game when you're going to go up against a team that has 3 very quality wide receivers and the potential of Carson Wentz being the starting quarterback. In a game that I'll be at too, by the way. I can't wait I'm hoping it's Carson Wentz versus Jalen Hurts, not looking ahead. And the key is to get after Baker Mayfield. I don't think he's turned the ball over yet this year. Doesn't have a turnover, and Jalen only has 1. But try to force some turnovers, give the offensive short field, and get all. And you don't want, as I mentioned before, we don't want the defense on the field for a long period of time, especially in that heat. So I'm going A.J. Brown and Keely Ringo. You are going Quinyon Mitchell and Jalen Hurts. My other guy was going to be Jalen Carter on the defensive side, but I needed to go Keely Ringo. All right, so before we get to our prediction, let's go to our unheralded player of the week for week 3 in the NFL. What do we mean by unheralded? We don't want the superstars. We don't need Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes, Jalen Hurts, A.J. Brown, all them guys. Somebody that's under the radar, that helped their team in a positive way in their game last week. Who you got, Connor?
I don't necessarily believe this guy's totally under the radar, but I felt like, some rumors started during the draft process and was kind of disrespected a little bit for being lazy. He's kind of buried in a way on a depth chart in Chicago. I'm going with Luther Burden III. He went 3 receptions for 101 yards and a big 65-yard touchdown in a win over on the flea flicker in a win over the Dallas Cowboys. So any chance I get to pick a guy who's been a lesser known name, and he impacted on a victory over the Dallas Cowboys, which, by the way, I cannot believe the way Jerry Jones continues to talk about Micah Parsons. I can't wait to watch that game.
Micah Parsons might have 10 sacks.
I've never been excited to watch a Cowboys game unless it's against the Eagles, but Jerry Jones is making it a game you almost have to make sure you tune into. But I digress. I'm going Luther Burden III. He had a big game. Finally, has a big game. Like I said, he's kind of buried there with DJ Moore and Roma.
Isn't he a rookie?
He is a rookie. He is a rookie, and I really liked him coming out. And then there was all these things about he didn't have a great work ethic. He was kind of lazy, blah blah blah. And then he got buried on this depth chart. But it looks like DJ Moore almost feels like the odd man out because Luther Burden and Romeo Doomsday had great games in the win over the Cowboys.
It's always nice watching the Cowboys lose. I'm going with, and I don't really like to go with kickers, but I'm going with Andre Schmidt. I think that's how you say his name. The kicker for the Cleveland Browns, who kicked the game-winning field goal against the Green Bay Packers only a mere a couple of days after one of the Packers offensive linemen said, "Yeah, we can go undefeated," and then they lose to the Cleveland Browns. Totally thought that was the funniest thing in the world. When they talk about going undefeated and then they lose their very next game. So I'm going the kicker for the Cleveland Browns. Also, as a point of Jerry Jones, I really hope Micah Parsons goes for 10 sacks. Also, I wish, and I know we reportedly gave the biggest package, offered up the most for Micah. Micah would look good in an Eagles uniform right now, especially since we can't get after the quarterback. And we have injuries along the defensive line. So, yes, I can't wait to see Micah sack Dak Prescott 100 times if it comes to that. All right, Connor, let's get to, we got somebody almost 8 a.m. in Tokyo. Fly, baby, fly. Nice. Thank you for joining us. Wow.
Tokyo. On a Saturday morning. It's wild to think that it is early on a Friday evening here. And then it be 8 a.m. in Tokyo on a Saturday. But thank you so much for joining. That is awesome. We reach you all the way over in Japan. That's super cool.
All right, Connor. Prediction time. The Eagles are 3-0. The Packers. The Buccaneers are 3-0. I am 3-0 in my picks. You are 2-1 in your picks. You lost the Week 2 game at Kansas City because you had Kansas City defeating the Eagles. What is your prediction? I have mine written down, so I can't copy you. What is your prediction for the Eagles and Buccaneers?
I have the Eagles losing this game. Unfortunately, this is the one where I feel like, I'm happy to get out of this stretch of 4 games 3-1. I didn't think we'd get to the point where we're actually 3-1. But I'm going with the Buccaneers, and I'm going 27-24. I think it's going to be close. I think the Buccaneers are going to get away with another one of those really close, dirty, wins. But a win's a win. You take the wins where you get them. That's for sure. That's
true. Do you think here's a question before I give my prediction. Would you rather the Eagles be down 4 and have the ball with 2 minutes left, or be up 4 and Tampa have the ball with 2 minutes left?
Down 4. It's almost a guarantee. If you give the opportunity to give Jalen Hurts or Baker Mayfield the ball, he's going to put up the requisite necessary points. It just feels like he's going to do that. And
so you want Jalen to have the ball in his hands?
Yeah, I'd rather have Jalen with the ball in his hands because we saw what he did down 19. If you're down 4, you know that he's going to attempt to put the requisite points on the board. So I'd rather be the one to have to put them up.
So my prediction, I also have Tampa winning 24-17. I really hope I'm wrong. Thing is, I actually think I may have had the Eagles 2-2 at this point in my prediction. Let me see if I have that written down real quick. Yes, I actually had the Eagles. We both had the Eagles 2-2 after week 4. So regardless of what happens this game, they're already high. They're already better off than where we had them. So I do think though, like, it would be nice to get this monkey off their back of Todd Bowles owning Jalen Hurts and Nick Sirianni. But I do think we are a little bit more healthier this game. And I'm not going to put the blame on the Heat. Both teams have to play in it, even if Tampa is more used to it. But I think, and this won't hurt the Eagles. It's unfortunate because it's an NFC loss, and this is a team you could be battling with for the number 1 seed as we get towards the end of the season. But it's a team that we will see again in the playoffs. Hopefully at the Link, but even if it's in Tampa, it won't be as hot as it's going to be this Sunday. But yeah, so unfortunately, I hope I'm wrong, but I also have Tampa winning. Final thoughts before we finish off, partner.
Yeah, just a final shout out. Like this got 2 a.m. kickoff on a Monday morning. That is some dedication, my man. If you're waking up at 2 a.m. in Japan to watch the Eagles, shout out to you. I could not get up at 2 a.m. unless one of my kids is up. Then I would.
That means that the Thursday nighter in 2 weeks against the Giants, he'll be able to watch at 9 in the morning. That is awesome. On Friday?
But that's like us on Sunday with those Europe games. As long as
like this week
playing over there, yeah, like being able to wake up and at 10:30,
the Pittsburgh Minnesota game this week is at 9:30 a.m. Eastern time. So 10, that would be 10:30 your time, 10:30 Tokyo time, like on Monday though. Yeah, that's awesome. I that's how the West Coast feels here in the United States. They can wake up at 10 a.m. wake up and watch the 1 p.m. games Eastern time at 10 a.m. It's the only reason I would want to go out west. Other than that, no, it's too hot.
You have a better time zone than even I do. I hate my time zone. Like those 9 o'clock games at night for me are brutal. They end up wrapping up close to 1 a.m. It's a jaunt to get there. Let me tell you.
Yeah, that is brutal. Thank you all for tuning in to this edition of the Kelly Green Hour. As always, follow us on Twitter at Kelly Green Hour. Follow Connor on Twitter at Connor10. Follow me on Twitter at LJRoyal54. And follow the Eagles Pin Pull Network on Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, wherever you get your podcast at Eagles Pin Pull Network. We will be back next Tuesday with a review of this game. We both hope we are wrong. We want the Eagles to obviously beat the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. For Connor, I'm LJ. Thank you all for tuning in to the Kelly Green Hour.
Fly, Eagles, fly.